Welcome to the post-trade deadline edition of Sharing Sox. I'm duty geezer Leigh Allan. With me, my son and West Coast correspondent Will, as we comb through the many, many transactions involving the Chicago White Sox as we came up to the deadline. We're recording this. We left 2 hours after the deadline because sometimes you get those post-deadline announcements because the deadline is really filing with the commissioner's office, not going public. But anyhow, it's over. it's done now.
It's
And
done.
Austin Slater is gone, and Adrian Hauser is gone, and everybody else is still a happy White Sox.
Yeah, it was kind of insane to sit there for the longest time wondering if anybody was actually going to go. Uh, I was at lunch out here with Bill Mankey, who's a sometimes contributor to Southside Sox, and we just have our phones on the table and they're blowing up with notifications, but it kept being every other team but the White Sox. Uh, at one point around probably 2:15, I just said to him, I was like, if Adrian Hauser doesn't go, then something went horribly wrong in this process. You can argue other guys all day and all night, but Hauser was like, you can't have a more common trade deadline guy than
Yeah.
than Hauser. You got a guy who's pitching lights out, even though I know it's better than his career numbers, and he's on an expiring cheap contract, and you're like, why the heck isn't this guy moving? Why isn't this guy moving? Why isn't this guy moving? He eventually moved um, to the Tampa Bay Rays, which I would say is not where I was expecting him to go.
I wouldn't have expected that either.
Uh, First off, it's just always weird when the Rays are adding, because the Rays just seem to, even though they're always a competitive team, they seem to always be selling. That's just how their business has always worked. They keep one of the lowest payrolls in all of baseball and beat teams with way bigger payrolls. It's kind of an amazing thing to see. Sort of you know, they spend what the White Sox tend to spend, but with way better results all the time. So I was shocked to see the Rays go there. We got a decent package in return. It's not that I didn't expect Hauser to bring back anything spectacular. There's just, if you look at his career numbers, you're kind of just waiting for the cliff. Um, but, to get three guys back, um, the first announced guy was the Australian, who has actually played some Major League Baseball, I think.
At three
Uh,
seasons,
he-
all with the Rays, all parts of seasons, 20 games here, 30 games there kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, he's got a 226 batting average and an 85
so he'll
OPS.
fit right in.
He
he'll,
was
he'll fit right in.
he was a leading prospect a couple years ago and just kind of fell off the map. And the write up also said, well, he's a terrific hitter. He just has to work on his fielding. Well, he hasn't hit either. So, prospects come and prospects go. But perhaps, the White Sox have seen something that they think they can fix. What I find odd is not his level, because he really was a high ranking prospect. He wasn't, of course, he's not a prospect charts now because he's been in the majors, but he's a utility infielder. You know,
Right.
you know how 3 years ago maybe we had nothing but first baseman slash DHs. Right now, pretty much all we've got besides catchers is utility infielders. They're only
Yeah.
Josh Rojas is a utility infielder. Miguel Vargas is a utility infielder. Chase Mydroth is a utility infielder. Lenine Sosa is a utility infielder. And probably Colson Montgomery's a utility infielder.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
Brooke
got
Ball is a utility infielder.
we got a whole bunch of guys who are okay at playing everywhere. Um,
Well,
we
and
don't have.
teams like that these days, and that is a good thing. But it's
It's
good to have a
true.
team that can play someplace really well.
Yeah, so ideally, when you're in a rebuild, you start lining up guys who could play positions particularly well. And that's not to say that some of these guys don't play well. I think if you could keep Chase Meidroth at second base and
Yes,
he was
yes.
able to get adjusted to second base, then I think he's potentially a very good second baseman. I think there's some decent promise for Colson Montgomery at third base. He seems to have good reaction time over there. He's got a pretty strong arm from what we've seen so far. Does not seem like he's likely to be a major league shortstop. So maybe if he keeps getting reps at third base at the major league level, he'll do better there. Um, we got a whole bunch of guys who are mediocre first basemen, which isn't crucial to have a Gold Glove first baseman, but it would be nice to have someone who you just felt really good about over there.
And
And
if
then
it,
we basically
if they can't field, then they got to hit like a first baseman,
correct,
which we don't
correct.
have.
That
Now,
is the
we have
major
a
league
first
rule.
baseman who apparently is a really, really good hitter if he is north of the Illinois-Wisconsin line. If he's south of it, he wasn't so hot.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about trades, we got to talk about Andrew Vaughn here, which I know was a far before the deadline trade him for a bag of peanuts. I don't know what the heck's going on with Andrew Vaughn. I don't know what. I think he's hitting over 400 in Milwaukee so far. If he's not over
One ball
400,
too.
he's crushing the ball. He's going to pass his Sox total in home runs in the next 2 weeks if he keeps playing like this. Uh, I don't buy it for 1 second as something that's going to continue to be the case, but I love the Brewers, so I'm happy to see it happening. I'd love to see the Brewers win the Central, and Andrew Vaughn is a huge reason they are leading the Central right now, which
He's
I
won some games for him
can't
for sure.
believe I'm saying. Oh yeah, I mean he had huge series against the Dodgers at home. He had huge moments against the Cubs in that series. Milwaukee, probably the best team since the break. If there's a team to argue has been as good as Milwaukee since the break, it might be the Chicago White Sox,
Well,
which
the interesting thing, you probably didn't see it, but Brett posted, our boss, our editor, posted the hottest teams in the last 12 games, which is most of the time since the All-Star break. And of the five hottest teams in the major leagues, three of them are the White Sox, the Pirates, and the Marlins.
crazy. Crazy. I mean, the Marlins are shocking right now. I don't know what's going on down there. And, I said maybe they were listening because when they got, I think, swept at home by the Colorado Rockies, I said that they should immediately have to forfeit the rest of the season, which they didn't do. And maybe the Marlins are big listeners of our podcast, and they took that to heart because they have been shockingly decent. I just saw a player survey, and 11% of the players said the Marlins are the most underrated team in all of baseball. Unfortunately, this same group of surveys, and then they had 11% of the vote. The Marlins did. I forget who was number one. The Brewers, I think, were number two. I can't remember exactly who was number one,
Oh,
but
the Tigers.
oh, the Tigers, yes, and they had 40% or something like that. But they also asked, "What's the worst organization to be a part of?" And 77% picked the Chicago White Sox.
Wow.
77%.
And there's some, and we know it's a horrible organization, but there's some other truly, I mean, compared to the Rockies, the
Yeah,
Angels are a horrible organization. There are a lot of them.
they were on the list. They were part of the teams in the top 10. But I mean, 70. All of those questions they asked these guys, Detroit being the most surprising team at 40% or so, was kind of the second biggest, vote grouping amongst all these questions. And then the White Sox were at 77%. And I believe the question was, which organization would you least want to play for?
Which brings us to something okay, we talked about Andrew Vaughn going to Milwaukee, and all of a sudden he's Babe Ruth. And that's not. In olden days, it could have been that National League teams never scouted him. So they're just now learning what his weaknesses are. But it's not true anymore. Everybody plays everybody. Everybody's scouting everybody. Everybody's got 600 trillion, zillion, gazillion computer bytes on every other player. So there's no scouting gap that exists. And yet when he changed organizations, suddenly he was so much better. And I never thought of Andrew, because he'd often be the guy that they interview in the dugout between innings kind of thing. Never thought of him as a guy who was bothered by it. But it's always kind of a cheery, hail fellow, well met sort of guy. The guy
Yeah,
who, to me, has absolutely been most bothered by it year after year is Luis Robert Jr. Luis
sure.
totally shaken by it. And I would have thought that other teams, now who knows what the White Sox ask for, probably, firstborn children. But if they were even remotely close to reasonable, I would have thought other teams would see that too. That Luis just is hard on his sleeve. And boy, you talk about a change of venue guy, that's your guy right there. Change of venue, he's going to be super. And then you look at what he's done the past couple of weeks, really most of the past month. Uh, and it's like he's auditioning. I mean, we
He's
exchanged texts
begging.
about
It's
how he was auditioning for the Phillies, which he did
I
really
look.
well.
I'm an actor, and I've never auditioned as hard as Luis Robert was to get out of Chicago. And a part of me is like, okay, did he watch his teammate go to Milwaukee and suddenly become the best hitter in baseball and think, man, I got to get out of here? was was that a conscious or subconscious
I,
thought? Because
I think it's possible.
Luis turned it around when Vaughn left. I mean, it really lines up quite nicely of when Luis started to figure it out. And of course, I think you can chalk up his play since the break as him trying to turn something on to get out of there. And, we hadn't even really mentioned this too much, but obviously Luis did not go anywhere at the deadline. Uh, as teams started shopping and all these deals were coming through, it started to become clearer and clearer that he wasn't going to go anywhere before the deadline. So the White Sox must have just been asking for way too much. Just
I,
way
I
too
think again,
much.
everybody. It really sounds like with everybody that gets overplayed his hand. Now, the return for
Yeah.
Hauser is probably fine. You've got two minor league pitchers, one of whom is a starting pitcher, Duncan Davitt, who's not doing well. He just moved up to AAA and he's not doing well, but he's fairly new there. And then Ben Peoples, the relief pitcher, is doing well at AAA. So, he can come, but we didn't lose any of our relievers. All those relievers that were supposed to go somewhere didn't go anywhere. And then
That is crazy to me. If there is any guarantee about the trade deadline
it's
in
that all your relievers
history,
go if you want.
yeah, it's that your relievers on non-contending teams are the first to go. They're the first to go. Everybody needs relievers. We were seeing relievers with ERAs over 5 being dealt yesterday. And yet we got guys who are way better than that, and they're staying in Chicago. And I know you're not going to get a lot for a reliever who isn't, uh, a Duran or
Well,
a Yon
closer.
Duran or a Class A, except of course that didn't happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to get Mason Miller got the A is the most spectacular haul of the entire deadline. Just unbelievably crazy return from the Padres for a reliever. Just ridiculously
But of
bad
course,
trade for the
he's
Padres.
got many, many years of control left, which I think probably was part of that
Of
situation. Whereas
course.
most of the ones of the White Sox, not all of them. And Grant Taylor, for example, has got, I don't know, till Jerry Reinsdorf is in his mid 90s. I mean, there's a long control over him. And the experts had talked a lot about Grant Taylor would probably go. I didn't even hear a mention in the last couple of days before the deadline of anybody
You
talking
would think
about.
Wilson would go. These guys where you're not going to get a huge return, but you're just looking for any return on a reliever because relievers are so hot and cold. You just never know when a reliever's going to be done or when a reliever's not going to work anymore. I'm just shocked to see that none of the bullpen went at all. That is
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, particularly. I mean, you say you're not going to get a huge return because several of them were rentals or near rentals. Uh, but even with that, this is a team that is absolutely desperate for outfielders.
Yeah,
We have no outfielders in the minor leagues, just nothing. So you've got Luis, who apparently is going to be around another year. Uh, I can't, at this point, they have to pick up the option because if you don't pick up the option, you're looking even stupider than you already look because you get nothing at that point. You got
right.
Benintendi, even he has hot streaks that are remarkable. You go, wow. And then you look at his OPS and it's about 98 or something, his OPS plus. Um, I don't know. And Talkman, they have a year option on Talkman, but none of that is taking you. None of those three is taking you into your time of competitiveness. At the
Yeah.
very latest, they're taking you to 27. And I have a fear, and we talked about this. We texted about this that they believe because the team has hit so well for the last couple of weeks that oh boy, we're really there, and maybe we can be competitive in 2027. We'll be heading out there in 2027.
I
Um,
mean, this deadline, the way they handled this deadline makes you think they think we're going to be competitive in 2026. To not get rid of anybody, and I do think that's the fear, and Bill and I talked about it as well. It felt like you kind of got hot at the wrong time for the trade deadline, and that you started to see a lot of hope. You started to see a lot of the team gelling, and maybe that was the answer. Maybe the answer was keep these guys are finally clicking. We finally have a clubhouse that doesn't seem toxic. We finally have a group of guys getting along that are winning ball games, who clearly like to be winning ball games together. Maybe we don't break them up for some A-level prospects that very easily could not pan out. Uh, but that only really makes sense if you think you're going to be competitive in 2026. And I don't see a world where that's even
that,
remotely
that's
possible.
yeah, it's remotely possible when Jerry says, you know what, I'm 90 years old now. Let's spend $1 billion on free agents. That's that's the dream world. That's not going to
But
happen.
it's honestly not even possible because of the free agent pool. It's not like at the end of this year, you're going to have Otani and Judge and Soto and these guys for free agency. It's not. There's not a ton of absolute studs on the free agent market after this season. So, and of course, even if there were, we know the White Sox aren't going to
No, no.
pay that money. Um, so I'm just surprised that we did so little. I'm not surprised we didn't rip it apart, but I'm surprised we did so little. On that note, we should take a break, and we will come back and we can talk about a lot did happen in baseball today. A
Okay.
lot of big things happened. So we should talk about some of that stuff. We'll be right back on Sharing Socks. Welcome back to Sharing Socks. We spent the first half talking about the White Sox lack of trade deadline activity, but not everybody took that approach. In fact, some teams were extremely aggressive. Some teams were selling at a scary rate if you are their fan base. And I'm looking at our division rival, the Minnesota Twins.
Oh yeah.
If
Although they
if
kept
you are
dropping
a
it, but
if you're a Twins fan, I mean, oh my gosh, what are you thinking? Because yeah, you kept Buxton, who was hurt again, and you kept Joe Ryan, but you got rid of they traded 9 of the guys on the active 26-man roster.
wow.
9. I mean, that's such an fu to the fans because that's not we're trying to get better. That's we're just willing to suck now. You trade away 9 major league caliber players, you're just not going to be good next year. There's no way around it. And the Twins, they were kind of having a disappointing season, but I wouldn't say they were a team that felt like they were out of reach for being competitive again soon. And to clean house like that is just, man, if I was a Twins fan, that is absolutely brutal. You kind of just they turned into the White Sox today, and they're going to be joining us down at the bottom of the division, and we're going to pass them now. I mean, I don't think they got
I
crazy stuff
think
in
in
return.
2026, the White Sox will lose fewer than 100 games. Not many fewer.
I agree.
High
I
90s.
agree.
High 90s, but may not be in the bottom of the AL Central. And it's so strange. The AL Central has been the worst division of baseball for pretty much the existence of the AL Central. That last year they were super, except for the White Sox. Part of it because everybody went 12-1 against White Sox, but
Correct.
but still they were really good. And it just went right back down the porcelain facility this year, except for the
Oh, it's
Tigers.
just terrible. It's just terrible. And fortunately, the Tigers have turned it around the last couple days, but they came out of the All Star break just
Yeah,
in disarray. I mean, watching them lose, I think they lost the first six out of the break, and you're just like, oh, geez, were the Tigers not even legit this entire time? Were there no good teams in the AL Central? And it's hard to see the Royals take such a step back after last year. Um, the Tigers seemingly are going to run away with it. I think the Royals have an opportunity to have a hot streak and be right in the thick of it. They got.
yeah,
I was
they didn't
surprised.
go off.
No,
No, in fact, they
yeah,
bought a little.
yeah. They got Mike Yastrzemski from the Giants, which I think is a surprising and interesting addition for them. Um, the Royals, I think, are hopeful that they're going to turn it around in the second half, and I would be happy to see that. I like anybody winning the division other than the White Sox in the Central. I've always wanted to be the Royals, um, but it's unlikely. Craziest thing that, there was talk of this until Correa said, no, this isn't actually going to happen, you guys. And then it did happen. And Correa is going back to the Astros. I believe the Twins are sending 33 or 34 million dollars with him.
A lot of money.
It's just the Twins' white flag of surrender is just insane to me. What are
Yeah,
you going there to watch?
and the team is still for sale, as far as I know. They don't have a buyer again after the Ishbia thing fell through. Uh, you'd think a buyer would be interested in buying a team that he can enjoy watch play.
You
Yeah.
would think.
Why would
You
you
would
buy a
think.
team to be embarrassed?
Yeah, or maybe, maybe they found a guy who was like, look, if you can ditch a lot of that payroll, I'll think about it. And that's what they were doing because a sell off like that's just bonkers. And Duran is gone as well, who was, you know, easily one of the best closers in all of baseball, a fan favorite, has the best entrance of any closer. You could argue Mariano Rivera to, enter Sandman, but have you ever seen Yohan Duran's entrance?
No. Well, not that I paid attention anyway.
It's the coolest thing you will ever see on a baseball field. Do I think it's ridiculous and stupid and way too much for a closer? Yes, but when he's in the bullpen, this big bell starts ringing, the lights go out, the whole stadium is erupted into flames, and he runs onto the field only lit by the flames surrounding him on the video screens with music blasting. It's the coolest entrance you'll ever see. It's also the kind of entrance where you better not give up a ball. You better not throw a ball if you're going to enter to that. The fact that there are games where he's blown saves, I'm like, you need to apologize for the entrance if you're going to then come in and blow a save like that. But yeah, the Twins are done. The Tigers added a little bit here and there. Nothing crazy. But they certainly didn't need to add a lot crazy. They weren't in a situation. They've got a great farm system, so for them to be able to hold on to a lot of guys is great. Um, Cleveland, I mean,
Gave up Bieber,
gave up Bieber, who hasn't pitched since I think
but it's
2023 or early
but it's
2024.
but it's they hope to pitch soon.
Yeah, he's been doing some rehab starts. I think I read that he was up to 4 innings or something
Like
like
four
that.
innings
I
in
mean,
the last one, yeah.
you can never count out Shane Bieber. Like you just can't. He's just great, and he's always been great. And I could absolutely see him making a stellar comeback. But the Class A thing really screwed everything up
Oh yeah.
for Cleveland. I mean, it kind of put Stephen Kwan really on the chopping block. He ended up not moving either. Uh, but the Class A thing, I don't know. Have you seen the footage of what at least fans are accusing Class A of doing?
No.
So as soon as he got caught doing whatever it was involving gambling, fans were all over it and putting together montages. This guy was coming out. This is Emmanuel Clase. And almost every first pitch of his outing was buried about 6 feet in front of home plate, like clockwork. And so everybody's watching and thinking, I know what the prop bet is that Emmanuel Clase's first pitch is a ball. And because these aren't competitive balls, these are not, it's 4 inches off the outside even.
The guy might swing.
This is there is no way. Maybe Ichiro would swing at one of these because he can hit a ball that bounces that far in front of the plate. But nobody else on planet Earth, not even non-baseball players, are swinging at these pitches. I mean, Class A is cooked. He is toast. Because I just don't, and you see people on the post arguing like, well, he's a reliever. He's coming in high leverage situations, and he's nervous. Okay, I'm sorry.
He was the
If
best
you have
pitcher in baseball last year. I don't think he's nervous.
and you have some of these clips. They're up 6-1 in the ninth against the Reds, with nobody on. What's Class A so nervous about that he's bouncing the ball halfway to home plate? Most of them are 3-run lead scenarios. Class A is not nervous about a 3-run lead against the Twins in May. He's not. He's not. He is busted. He is so busted. And obviously we had the Otani thing, and I obviously don't want players gambling on baseball. But when you appear to be legitimately altering the game, that's when the hammer is going to come down, and it's going to come down hard on Class A. I don't see how you could look at this footage and think that he is doing anything but completely blowing pitches intentionally for prop bets. There's just no way. So Cleveland's just screwed. I don't know what Cleveland's going to do. They're such a mess now that I wish somehow José Ramírez could get out of there.
As soon as you said they're screwed, I was about to say, please send José Ramírez somewhere, because he is one of my favorite players ever, 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 and should be one of my favorite players ever. Not only one of the best players in the sport, but one of the classiest guys in the sport, and deserves better. He really deserves better.
The survey I was talking about in the first half, where they asked all the players who the most underrated player in all of baseball was, and I think it was like 27% said José Ramírez. And that's really fascinating because José Ramírez is an all-star. He almost every year, Gold Glove winner. He is always getting MVP votes. So
it's not like
that he is,
recognized, right?
yeah, he is everyone knows how great he is. He's not underrated technically. He is rated. But in terms of the star power, he's just, Cleveland is just, you kind of get thrown to the side a little bit. And I just hope he can get out of there. I really do.
Well, he's got that long
Other,
extension.
I know it's going to be really hard, except he's so great. Maybe somebody will do something at some point. I would kill to have José Ramírez on my team. Just
Oh, yeah.
one of the best players of my lifetime. One of the guys you just
He
any
is one
team
of those
wants him.
players for whom it is worth buying a ticket.
Yes,
Now, I was just at
absolutely.
with your sister and her family at Dodgers Reds, and I will tell you, Ellie De La Cruz is another one for whom it is worth buying a ticket.
Yeah.
But and Bobby, with you, there are a bunch of those people, but there aren't scads of them. There aren't any on the
No.
White Sox. Luis was that way 2 years ago, but now there aren't any.
Yeah, I mean, there's not one for every team. There's not, and Ramirez absolutely is. Ramirez is a guy where you watch him play one game and you want a jersey. You want a jersey that says Ramirez on the back because he's so fun to watch. He's so clean as a player. He's just great. Uh, Other
And
teams
he's
that
up
went
there
in hard.
161 games a year. You
I
know,
know
he misses
the
one because
workhorse.
maybe that day or something. But he's always out there.
Yeah. Other teams that went hard, the Phillies and the Mets, are clearly preparing themselves for quite the showdown in the NL East.
Absolutely.
Phillies are in a 100% win now scenario because they've got amazing starting pitching and they're getting old. Everyone's getting old. So this is, you got to go for it. The Mets, I think, are just always going to be a we have to go for it team because they spend so much money and don't win games. Oh, they win games, but they don't make it all the way.
Not enough. Yeah.
Uh, so the Mets, went in hard big time. The Dodgers did surprisingly little. I guess you're not super in danger of losing the NL West, so there's no reason to give
Although
up
the
your
Padres did a fair amount.
Padres did a fair amount. I don't know that they did smart moves necessarily. I don't think they hurt themselves, but I didn't see them getting much better from much better from what they did at the deadline. But they made some moves. Rangers surprisingly made some moves. And then the winner of the deadline, a lot of people are considering is going to be Seattle. Uh,
Well, yeah, just on one move.
Yeah, and kind of too. Picking up Naylor as well. You added a ton of offensive power um, that you can now sandwich Cal Raleigh in between, and
True.
that's
And they
only
have
going to help you.
their pitching's been strong all along. So yeah,
Yeah,
they're
pitching's been great. Their offense has been the weird thing for the last 2 years for them. Is why do they have all these great hitters who can't hit, and now they're bringing in some guys who can do some serious damage and can legitimately protect Raleigh. Because people are still pitching to Cal Raleigh right now, but if you made it to the playoffs without protection, people aren't going to pitch to Cal Raleigh. And now they're in a situation where if you got Cal Raleigh coming up and Eugenio Suarez is behind him, you got to throw to Cal Raleigh because Eugenio Suarez is going to send the ball to outer space as well. So the Mariners would love to see the Mariners somehow rally and take the AL West. Would love to see it. I don't think the Mariners have been to the postseason since 2001.
really
Um,
the year where they won 150 games.
yeah, that was the record year. I think it was 116, and I believe they have not been back since. Or it's possible they haven't won a playoff series since. But Houston has been dominating for half of my life now. So it's been tough. And then the Rangers, pop in and out here and there. The Angels, not so much. Although 2002, they
A
did win
team
it.
here in our fair city where I live and where you will be coming shortly to perform. Uh, the other team in town, I think there must be some pretty serious disappointment on the north side as well.
Well, there's got to be.
They didn't
There's
do
got to be.
anything. And I
No, they picked up someone at the last second. Do you remember who it was? I can't remember who it
no, but
was.
it wasn't like, oh, well, that'll change things.
No, oh, they picked up Willie Castro from the Twins. Again, the Twins.
Okay. A
Give
very good utility player, but a utility player.
Yeah, definitely. He is one of the guys that was desirable at this deadline, but he was not one of the guys that everyone was like, we got to get him. You got to get Willie Castro. You got to get him. Yeah, the Cubs did not do much at all. Um, Now, maybe they don't need to do much, but based on how the Brewers are playing, I would have thought maybe we need to do something.
Yeah, I would think for either one of those two, and the Brewers did more, that being first, rather, both will probably go to the playoffs unless there's a
Yeah,
collapse.
most likely. Most likely.
But being the number 2 seed versus being the number 5 seed, that's a world of difference when you get into playoff action.
Oh, it's a massive difference. If there is nothing you want to do more than avoid the wild card series. There is nothing you want to do more than avoid that.
Well,
The
no,
wild card series.
the White Sox avoid the wild card series every year. Let's point out,
Yeah,
you make it
they're
to the
smart.
playoffs. There's nothing for them to do.
Look, if you're gonna be good enough to make it to the playoffs, be better than the wild card series, or be like the White Sox and just enjoy your early vacation. Because wild card series sucks. It's a crazy series. It's really hard. It's really weird. I don't really like it. I think it's just strange. But you want to avoid it. You really, really want to avoid it. And you would think the Cubs would have done a little more to try to be in the wild card slot, and especially seeing the NL East do what they were doing. The Dodgers and Padres are probably going to stay pretty up there for the rest of the year. And now the Mets and the Phillies just stacked themselves to try to get there. So there's going to be a lot of competition for I don't think it's necessarily unclear who's going to go to the playoffs in the NL, but I do think it's very unclear who's going to be seated where at this time.
Yes.
And that makes a huge difference. The races are going to be about there's some wild card races, sure, but the races are really going to be about who's winning these divisions, and it's extremely helpful to win the division, not only win the division, but be not the third best division winner. You really want to be in those top two
Yeah. So you
slots.
avoid that wild card.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that you can win a division and have to play in the wild card series. I mean, I know there's no great answer for it because you've got three divisions, but I just think it's insane that you
The
can
great answer
win.
has to come 2 or 3 or 4 years from now when they get two more teams and you go to two
Yeah,
16-team leagues and four-team divisions, and it makes a heck of a lot more sense.
yeah, that'll make a lot more sense. But that is about all the time we have for this week. Do you have any final thoughts before we sign off?
Well, it looks like the White Sox aren't going to lose another game this year. We actually didn't even talk about the fact about how great they've been, and they have. I covered the last game before the deadline, where they had the inning where they had 7 consecutive hits. It was like the
Yeah.
fourth time in history that a reliever came in and gave up 7 consecutive hits, and most of them were hard hit. A couple, Sosa's was just kind of a plunk, and Benintendi's was a lucky bloop, but most of them were hard hit. And of course, 2 3 run homers in the mix of it.
Yeah, I was talking about this with some friends, and this is the last 2 weeks have been the first time in a long time it's been fun to be a White Sox fan. Like it has been fun to watch these guys play. The
Final
huge difference is they can hit fastballs now, and of course that changes everything in Major League Baseball. And it's just been fun to watch guys who can put the bat on the ball and put it in play and run the bases and score. They still make some bonehead moves, but not nearly as many as we're used to. And they're a fun team. I think Will Venable's doing something interesting in there.
He's improved the defense. As you say, there's still some. Lenny Sosa's never going to have a baseball brain. It's just never going to happen. I wish they'd traded him, frankly, at the deadline, found some way to do that. And I know he's hitting well. And the hit he got yesterday, it was on his shoe tops on the out, about probably 6 inches outside and 3 inches above the ground. But that's what
Cheers.
Tim Anderson used to hit. Remember, Tim used to hit those.
Yeah.
And those that did, he just poked it to right, which is what Luis has been doing lately off right-handers. And my question is Colson Montgomery for real?
I am going to say that Colson Montgomery is for real. I do think Colson Montgomery is for real. Do I think he's going to be a Bobby Witt Jr.? No, of course not. But I think he's for real. I think he's a Major League Baseball player. I do, and I think he's only going to get better. I I'm surprised how into Colson Montgomery I am, and I think he's for real. I do.
I think we talked back at the beginning of this year when he was hitting about 042 in Charlotte, and we were going, well, this is his last chance. I mean, he's
Yeah,
not going to have any more chances after this. And he did not take advantage of Tet. They shipped him out to Arizona, and I don't know who or what was in Arizona for those 2 weeks. But boy, you talk about a world of difference in a baseball player. Complete change. Now, the league probably hasn't adjusted to whatever his adjustments were, so we'll see. There will be a slacking off
of
beneath what he did
course.
in the last couple of weeks. The question that becomes is, can he adjust back? I think he probably can. The power is certainly for real. He's got infinite power.
I mean, what you said about him going to Arizona and drinking an elixir, I, I mean that is sort of what's making me think he's for real. It was a sort of genius move by the White Sox to pull him out of competition and send him to, meet with Mr. Miyagi or whoever he was meeting with secretly in Arizona. But he came out a different player. And I think that's the guy we're going to get, and that's the guy we're going to see. And I think he's going to keep working. Obviously, people will adjust, pitchers will adjust. They're too good not to figure something out. Uh, but you can go answer for answer, and then he's going to stick around. I'm excited about Colson Montgomery. I am. I am. And he's even made a couple
I'm not
pretty
excited. I'm excited about him as a third baseman,
correct.
rather than a
Yeah.
shortstop, which leaves us still with a shortstop problem. But that's for another time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree. He's made some snazzy plays at third base that make me think something's something's happening here. Something's happening here. This guy might be something. But yeah, that's all the time we have. Thanks for listening to our trade deadline edition of Sharing Sox. And hopefully by the next time we do this, the White Sox will keep up that close to 700 winning percentage, and we'll be maybe next time we're on here, we'll be sitting here doing the math and being like, well, if they win 3 out of 4 here and 2 out of 3 there and 3 out of 4 here, that puts us 4 out of the second wild card place with 3 games to go. It could happen where we start to think crazy. We're White Sox fans. I don't know why we do it, but we got the Pope, so why not? All right. Thanks so much. We'll catch you next time on Sharing Socks.